MacPhail. I'm an author. I write books for a living. Isn't that fantastic? And I am talking to you today in order to introduce myself and also to answer a few questions. What I thought might be interesting is if you could see where I work. I'm going to show you my workstation. Here it is. It's not very impressive. I do apologise. This is the place where I do all my, where I write all my books. What I want to show you is the most important book that we writers have when we're doing our work. And it's this one here. I use it all the time. It's a Collins Dictionary and Thesaurus. It's very, very useful. So yeah, this is where I sit and I do all my books. Isn't it fantastic? I write them down. I also have a couple of questions that I have to address. The first question is, who is my favourite author? My favourite author of all time is without doubt Mary Shelley. Mary Shelley wrote the book Frankenstein, which I'm sure you've heard of. Mary Shelley lived about 200 years ago and she was way, way ahead of her time. She was writing a kind of book that, even if it was produced today, people would think was groundbreaking. Another of my favourite authors, actually, is Robert Louis Stevenson, and he wrote books such as Kidnapped and Treasure Island, and one of my favourite books to go along with Frankenstein is Jekyll and Hyde. He wrote that one as well. The other question I've been asked to answer is, what were my favourite books when I was aged 8? As you can see, I'm not aged 8 anymore. When I was 8, that's a long time ago, I had a lot of favourite books. I did a lot of reading when I was 8. I do remember a book that was called Washington and the Marrow Raiders by this children's author called Tessa Craley. She was great. The other book I remember is Robert Westall's The Watchtower. All these books I read with such a feeling of excitement. There's nothing like it, reading a book for the first time, especially when you're at that age. And I also remember Eric Morecambe, who was a great comedian. He wrote this book called The Reluctant Vampire, and it was a funny book. And I really, really enjoyed that. And the other question I've been asked is, what was I reading when I was age 3? Well, that's a tricky one. I had to ask my mum because I don't remember. And she didn't remember either. But I do actually have one of those books. I still have a copy of a book I read, or was read to me around that time. And it was actually a book called Haunted House by Jan P. Klowski. And this is a great book. It's a pop-up book, which I used to read. I flicked through for years and years, even when I was aged 8. I would thoroughly recommend it as a pop-up book. The final question I've been asked is, if I was a character from a book, which character would it be? I think the character I'd quite like to be is, I love history, so I'd quite like to go back to Roman times. One book I really remember was a book called The Eagle of the Ninth by Rosemary Sutcliffe. And the main character in that book, I think, was called Marcus, seeking a lost Roman standard, an eagle standard. And him and his slave went through Roman Britain to try and find it. I'd quite like to be that. I'd quite like to go back to Roman Britain. So there's all my questions answered. You've seen where I work. Here it is once again. This is where I create all my stories. And I hope to be speaking to you again sometime. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.